Jake Morrison stood at the front door of his house and stared at the brass numbers 247, the same address he had memorized 3 years ago before leaving for the war. Everything looked smaller now. The white fence needed paint. The mailbox leaned to one side. Even the oak tree in the front yard seemed shorter than he remembered. His mother opened the door before he could knock. She had gray hair now, more wrinkles around her eyes. She looked at him like he might disappear if she blinked too hard. "Jake," she whispered, then louder, "Jake, you're home." He dropped his military bag and hugged her. She felt fragile in his arms. Had she always been this small? His father appeared behind her, older too, wearing the same blue work shirt he had worn to the factory for 20 years. They stood in the doorway, looking at each other. "You got tall," his father said finally. Jake nodded. He was 6 feet now, broad shoulders from carrying heavy weapons across alien planets, scars on his hands from fixing broken equipment under enemy fire, a metal implant in his left arm where Zephyrian energy weapons had burned through muscle and bone. His sister Katie ran down the stairs. She was 16 now. When he left, she had been 13 with braces and pigtails. Now she looked like a young woman. She stopped 3 feet away and stared at him. "You look different," she said. Everything looked different to Jake, too. The living room felt too quiet. No explosions in the distance. No alerts from communication systems. No smell of burning fuel or alien atmosphere processors. Just the soft tick of the old clock on the wall and the hum of the refrigerator. His mother made dinner. Meatloaf and mashed potatoes, his favorite meal before he left. He ate slowly while his family watched him. They asked careful questions about the war. He gave careful answers. Yes, the food was okay. No, the alien planets were not like Earth. Yes, he made friends with other soldiers. He did not tell them about watching his squad leader die from poison gas on Kepler Station. He did not mention the 3 months they spent eating emergency rations while hiding in caves from Zephyrian hunter ships. He did not describe the sound enemy weapons made when they cut through human armor. After dinner, Katie showed him her room. Posters of music groups he had never heard of. Photos of friends he did not recognize. A computer that was smaller and faster than anything he had seen before leaving Earth. "I kept your room the same," she said. "Mom wanted to, anyway." His room looked like a museum. The bed was made with military corners now, which made him smile a little. His old clothes hung in the closet, too small for him now. Posters of sports cars and action movies seemed childish. A baseball trophy from junior high sat on the desk next to homework he would never finish. That night, Jake lay in his old bed and stared at the ceiling. The house was too quiet. On the ship, there were always sounds. Engine noise, air recyclers, other soldiers moving around. Here, every small noise made him tense. A car backfiring 3 streets away sounded like enemy artillery. When the heater kicked on, he reached for weapons that were not there. He got up and sat by the window. The street was empty, peaceful. No patrols, no guard towers, no sensor networks watching for enemy movement. Just houses with families sleeping safely inside. This was what they had fought for. This was what his friends had died protecting. Morning came with sunlight instead of alarm sirens. His mother made breakfast and handed him a letter from the Yaha School District. Report to Riverside High School on Monday for academic assessment and placement. The government's Hero Integration Program would help him finish his education. "You don't have to go right away," his father said. "Take some time to adjust." Jake shook his head. "I need to do something normal." That weekend, they went shopping for school supplies. The mall was overwhelming. Too many people. Too many sounds. Too many bright lights. Jake found himself checking exits and scanning for threats that did not exist. A child dropped a toy, and the plastic clatter made him duck behind a display case. Katie noticed. "You okay?" "Fine," he said, but his hands were shaking. On Monday morning, Jake stood in front of Riverside High School. Students walked past him carrying backpacks and talking about weekend parties. They looked so young. Had he ever been that young? 3 years ago, maybe, before the war. Before seeing things that would never leave his memory. Principal Martinez was a kind woman with tired eyes. She had read his file. Purple Heart for wounds in combat. Bronze Star for valor under fire. Congressional Medal of Honor for actions that saved an entire colony world. She spoke to him like he might break. "We want you to feel comfortable here," she said. "Take your time adjusting. If you need anything, just ask." She assigned him to senior classes even though he had missed 3 years of school. Government programs moved war veterans through the system quickly. They wanted heroes to succeed, to show that the war had been worth fighting. His first class was trigonometry. The teacher, Mrs. Patterson, introduced him to the class. "This is Jake Morrison. He served our country in the Centauri conflict." 20 pairs of eyes stared at him, some curious, some impressed, some afraid. He took a seat in the back and tried to focus on math problems while his enhanced hearing picked up whispered conversations. "He looks dangerous. My dad says those soldiers are all messed up. I heard they have computer chips in their brains." Jake ignored them and opened his textbook. The symbols looked familiar. Math was universal. The same equations worked on Earth and on alien worlds light years away. He had used trigonometry to calculate artillery trajectories and navigation courses through asteroid fields. At lunch, he sat alone in the cafeteria. Students talked around him about homework and dating and college plans. Normal problems for normal kids who had never seen war. Jake ate his sandwich and watched them laugh and argue over small things that seemed important to them. A group of younger students sat nearby, freshmen probably. Jake noticed how they kept their heads down and spoke quietly. One boy had a bruise on his cheek. A girl clutched her backpack like someone might steal it. They ate quickly, then left before finishing their food. Jake recognized the signs. He had seen them in refugee camps and occupied territories. Fear, the behavior of people living under threat. After lunch, he walked the halls and observed. Students moved in groups. Some groups walked with confidence, taking up space, speaking loudly. Others hurried past with their eyes down, trying not to be noticed. Territory and hierarchy. Predators and prey. Just like on the alien worlds, just like in war zones. The faces were different, but the patterns were the same. Jake Morrison had come home from fighting monsters across the galaxy. Now he was going to find out what monsters looked like in high school. Jake Morrison learned the school's social structure during his first week at Riverside High. He watched students the same way he had studied enemy positions during the war. Patterns emerged quickly. 3 students controlled everything that mattered. Danny Crawford was the football team's quarterback. Tall, muscular, with perfect teeth and expensive clothes. His father owned the largest construction company in town. Danny walked through the halls like he owned them. Other students moved out of his way without being asked. Lisa Martinez was the principal's daughter. Pretty, popular, and untouchable. Because of her family connections, she organized parties that everyone wanted to attend. She decided who was cool and who was not. Teachers looked the other way when she bent rules. Steve Coleman came from the richest family in town. His parents had bought him out of trouble since kindergarten. He had the newest phone, the fastest car, and the cruelest smile Jake had ever seen. Steve enjoyed hurting people more than Danny or Lisa did. He made it into an art form. Together, They ruled the school through fear and social pressure. They had followers who did their dirty work. They had victims who suffered in silence. They had a system that worked perfectly for them. Jake saw it. All during his first few days. The way they cornered students in empty hallways. The way they demanded money or homework or obedience. The way their victims handed over whatever they wanted without fighting back. It reminded him of the Zephyrian occupation forces. Alien soldiers who had controlled human colonies through intimidation and violence. They took what they wanted and hurt anyone who resisted. The tactics were the same, even if the scale was smaller. On Thursday afternoon, Jake witnessed their method firsthand. Alex Chun was a 14-year-old freshman who looked even younger. Small for his age, quiet, with thick glasses and second-hand clothes. He carried his books in a worn backpack and ate lunch alone in the library. Jake had noticed him before, always trying to stay invisible. After school, Alex walked toward the bike racks behind the gymnasium. Danny, Lisa, and Steve were waiting for him with 2 other students Jake did not recognize. They had positioned themselves between Alex and the exits. Classic ambush formation. Jake stopped walking and watched from behind a maintenance building. "Hey, Chun," Danny called out. "Come here." Alex tried to walk around them, but they spread out to block his path. His shoulders hunched up around his ears. He clutched his backpack straps with white knuckles. "We need to talk to you," Lisa said. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were cold. "I have to get home," Alex whispered. Steve laughed. "No, you don't. You have to pay your school tax first." "School tax?" Alex looked confused. "Protection money," Danny explained. $20 a week. That way, nothing bad happens to you. I don't have $20. "Then you better find it," Steve said. He stepped closer. "Bad things happen to kids who don't pay their taxes." Jake had seen enough. He stepped out from behind the building and walked toward the group. His military boots made no sound on the asphalt. Old habits from sneaking up on enemy sentries? Problem here? Jake asked. The 5 bullies turned toward him. Danny's followers took a step back when they saw Jake's size and the way he moved. But Danny himself did not back down. "No problem," Danny said. "Just talking to our friend Alex about school spirit. Looked like harassment to me." Lisa laughed. "Who asked you? This is none of your business." Jake looked at Alex. The boy was shaking, but trying not to show it. Just like the civilian refugees Jake had protected during the war. Scared people who needed someone to stand between them and the predators. "I'm making it my business," Jake said. Steve pulled out his phone and started recording. "Look at this. The big tough soldier picking on high school kids." "I'm not picking on anyone," Jake said calmly. "I'm stopping you from picking on someone." "We weren't doing anything wrong," Danny said. "Alex owes us money. Fair and square." "For what?" "For not getting his face smashed in," Steve said, still filming. "For not having his bike vandalized. For not getting stuffed in lockers every day." Jake understood now. Classic protection racket. Just like the ones criminal gangs ran in occupied territories. Pay us or we hurt you. Simple and effective, as long as nobody fought back. "Alex," Jake said without taking his eyes off Danny. "Go. Home. He can't leave until we're done talking," Lisa said. Jake took one step forward. Just one. But something in his movement made all 5 bullies tense up. It was the way he had moved when approaching enemy positions. Controlled. Dangerous. Ready for violence, but hoping to avoid it. "Yes, he can," Jake said quietly. Alex grabbed his bike and pedaled away fast. The bullies watched him go, then turned back to Jake with angry faces. "You just made a big mistake," Danny said. "Did I?" "You don't know how things work here, Steve." Sighed, still recording. We run this school, not you." Jake studied their faces. They were angry, but not really afraid yet. They thought their social power protected them. They thought being teenagers made them untouchable. They had never faced anyone who did not care about their threats. "I've seen how things work here," Jake said. "But things are going to change." "Oh, really?" Lisa stepped closer. "And who's going to change them? You? If I have to." Danny laughed. "You're one guy. We have the whole school? Do you?" The question seemed to confuse them. They were used to people being afraid of their reputation and connections. They were not used to someone who looked at them like they were just another tactical problem to solve. "This isn't over," Danny said finally. "No," Jake agreed. "It's not." The bullies walked away, still talking loudly about what they would do to Jake later. Steve kept his phone pointed at Jake until they were out of sight. Jake stood alone in the parking lot and thought about what had just happened. He had made enemies on his first week of school, but he had also saved a kid from being hurt. That felt familiar. That felt right. His phone buzzed with a text message from his sister Katie. "Heard you got in trouble with Danny Crawford already. Be careful, they're dangerous," Jake typed back. "I've fought things a lot more dangerous than high school bullies." But as he walked home, he realized this might be harder than combat. In war, the rules were clear. You could fight back with everything you had. Here, he had to be more careful. He could not use his military training to hurt kids, even kids who deserved it. He would have to find another way to win this war. A way that did not involve violence. A way that would protect people like Alex without turning Jake into the monster everyone seemed to think he was. The bullies had made one mistake. They thought Jake was just another student they could intimidate. They had no idea they were dealing with someone who had learned warfare from humanity's deadliest enemies. This was going to be interesting. The war began the next Monday morning. Jake arrived at school to find his locker covered with red spray paint. The words "killer" and "freak" dripped down the metal door. Students walked past without making eye contact. Word had spread fast about his confrontation with Danny Crawford. Jake cleaned the paint with paper towels from the bathroom. The janitor, an older man named Bill, brought him some cleaning spray. "Those kids have been running wild for years," Bill said quietly. "Nobody stands up to them anymore." "Why not?" "Because they always win, one way or another." Jake understood. The bullies had built their power over time. They knew how to hurt people without getting caught. They knew which teachers would believe them and which parents had influence. They had turned the school into their territory. During first period, Steve Coleman sat behind Jake in history class. Every few minutes, Steve kicked Jake's chair or dropped his books loudly. When Mrs. Anderson asked Steve to stop, he looked innocent and confused. "Stop what?" "I'm just trying to learn about World War II." "Maybe Jake can tell us about war," Steve said louder, "since he's such an expert at killing people." Some students laughed. Others looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Anderson told Steve to be quiet, but Jake could see she was nervous. Steve's family donated money to the school. His complaints could get teachers fired. At lunch, Jake sat with Alex Chun and two other students who had been targeted by the bullies. Ben Murphy was a sophomore who stuttered when he got nervous. Sarah Kim was a junior who wore hearing aids and read lips. All three had learned to stay invisible. "You shouldn't have helped me," Alex said. "They're going to make your life hell now." "They were already making your life hell. That's different." "I'm nobody. You're new. You could have fit in." Jake looked around the cafeteria. Students sat in their established groups. The popular kids owned the center tables. Everyone else clustered around the edges, like refugees in a camp. "I don't want to fit in with bullies," Jake said. "Then you're going to be miserable here." Ben said sadly. That afternoon, Jake found Danny Crawford waiting by his car after school. Danny had 6 other football players with him. They surrounded Jake in the parking lot where teachers could not see them. Time for a lesson, Danny said, about how things work around here. I'm listening, Jake said. First lesson. Stay away from our business. We don't bother you, you don't bother us. What about Alex and the others? What about them? They're not your problem. Jake studied the 7 boys surrounding him. They were bigger than most students, but they were still just teenagers. They had muscles from weight training and confidence from never losing a fight, but they had never faced real violence. They had never seen what humans could do when they had to survive. Actually, they are my problem, Jake said. Danny stepped closer. Wrong answer. Am I supposed to be scared now? You should be. We run this school. We can make your life miserable. You mean more miserable than fighting aliens? Who wanted to kill everyone I cared about? That stopped Danny for a moment. He had not expected Jake to stay calm. This isn't some war movie, Danny said. This is real life. I know what real life looks like. Do you? Steve appeared with his phone, recording again. This is perfect. War hero gets beat up by high school kids. This will go viral. Jake looked at the camera, then back at the boys surrounding him. In war, this would have been simple. Eliminate the threats and move on. But these were not enemy soldiers. They were just kids who had never learned that their actions had consequences. You know what I learned in the war? Jake said calmly. What? Danny asked. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is not to fight at all. Jake walked toward his car. The football players moved to block him, but something in his movement made them hesitate. He moved like a predator, like something dangerous that was, choosing not to attack. This isn't over, Danny called after him. No, Jake agreed. It's not. The next day, Jake's locker was filled with garbage. Someone had poured milk over his textbooks. Photos from his military service were taped to the walls with cruel comments written on them. Baby killer, psycho soldier, PTSD freak, other students whispered and pointed. The bullies were spreading rumors that Jake was dangerous, unstable, violent. They said he had flashbacks and anger problems. They said the military had kicked him out for being crazy. Jake cleaned up the mess and went to class. During lunch, he sat alone. Alex, Ben, and Sarah stayed away from him now. They could not afford to be associated with someone the bullies had targeted, but Jake was not really alone. He was gathering intelligence. He watched and listened. He learned the bullies' patterns and routines. He identified their supporters and their victims. He mapped the school's social network like he had mapped enemy territories during the war. The bullies controlled information flow through social media and gossip. They controlled resources through money and family connections. They controlled territory through intimidation and violence. But they had weaknesses too. Danny Crawford's father had business problems that could be exposed. Lisa Martinez had been cheating on tests for 2 years. Steve Coleman had been selling stolen electronics and blaming other students for the thefts. Jake also learned about their victims. There were more than he had realized. Dozens of students who paid protection money, or did homework for the bullies, or just suffered in silence. They were afraid to report anything because the bullies always found ways to get revenge. On Friday, everything changed. Jake was walking to his car after school when he saw Katie surrounded by Danny, Lisa, Steve, and 4 other students near the science building. His sister looked scared, but was trying not to show it. Your brother thinks he's tough, Danny was saying. Maybe we should test that theory. I don't know what you're talking about, Katie said. Sure you do. Jake thinks he can protect everyone, but he can't protect you when he's not around. Lisa, grabbed Katie's backpack, and dumped it on the ground. Books and papers scattered everywhere. "Oops," Lisa said. "Clumsy me." Steve kicked Katie's calculator into the bushes. "Better tell your brother to back off, or things might get worse for you." Jake moved toward them fast. Not running, but covering ground quickly and quietly. His military training took over. Target, identification, threat assessment, rules of engagement. When he was 10 feet away, he spoke in a voice that carried absolute authority. "Step away from her, now." All 7 bullies turned toward him. For the first time, Jake saw real fear in their eyes. They had pushed too far, and they knew it. "This is just a friendly conversation," Danny said, but his voice shook slightly. "No," Jake said, "it's not." The bullies had made their biggest mistake. They had threatened his family. Jake had fought alien armies to protect people he cared about. He would not let high school bullies hurt his sister. The real war was about to begin. Jake Morrison stood 10 feet away from the 7 bullies surrounding his sister. His hands hung loose at his sides. His breathing was steady, but something in his posture made all of them take a step back. "Katie," Jake said without taking his eyes off Danny. "Walk to my car. But my books... Leave them. Walk to my car. Now." Katie looked at her scattered belongings, then at her brother's face. She had never heard him use that tone before. Cold, final, dangerous. She walked to his car without looking back. Danny tried to regain control of the situation. "Look, Jake, we were just talking to your sister. No big deal. You dumped her books on the ground." "Accident," Lisa said quickly. "You kicked her calculator into the bushes." "Just fooling around," Steve said, but he kept his phone lowered now. Jake studied each of their faces. Fear was starting to show through their fake confidence. They had bullied dozens of students over the years, but they had never faced someone who truly did not care about their threats. "Here's what's going to happen," Jake said quietly. "You're going to pick up every single piece of my sister's property. You're going to apologize to her. Then you're going to leave us alone forever." Danny laughed, but it sounded forced. "Or, what? You'll beat us up? That'll look great. War hero attacks innocent students. I won't touch any of you," Jake said. "Then you can't do anything to us. Can't I?" Jake pulled out his phone and opened a folder full of photos and documents. He had been busy during his week of intelligence gathering. "Danny Crawford," Jake began, "your father's construction company has been using illegal immigrant workers for the past 2 years. I have payroll records and photos. Your family could lose everything when this gets reported to Immigration Services." Danny's face went pale. "You're lying." Jake showed him a photo on his phone. Danny's father shaking hands with workers outside a job site. The timestamp showed it was taken last week. "Lisa Martinez," Jake continued, "you've been selling copies of tests your mother keeps in her office. I have transaction records from your Venmo account and text messages where you discuss prices with buyers." Lisa grabbed for his phone, but Jake pulled it back easily. "That's not ... You can't prove. I already did. Your mother gets copies of these records on Monday morning." Jake turned to Steve Coleman. "And you've been stealing electronics from the computer lab and selling them online, and blaming other students when inventory comes up missing. I have video footage from the security cameras your parents thought were broken." Steve's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "How did you?" "Because you're amateurs playing games while I learned intelligence work from professionals." The other 4 bullies looked at each other nervously. They had not expected this. They thought Jake would either back down or get violent. They had not planned for him to systematically destroy their lives with evidence and documentation. "But here's the thing," Jake continued. "I don't want to ruin your lives. I just want you to stop ruining other people's lives. What do you want? Danny asked, pick up my sister's books. Apologize to her. Then we're going to have a conversation about how things work at this school from now on. The 7 bullies looked at each other. They were trapped, and they knew it. Slowly, reluctantly, they began picking up Katie's scattered belongings. Lisa found the calculator in the bushes. Steve gathered the loose papers. Danny collected the books with shaking hands. They walked to Jake's car, where Katie was waiting. One by one, they mumbled apologies. Katie accepted them with confused politeness, looking back and forth between them and her brother. Now, Jake said when they were finished, here are the new rules. No more protection money. No more threatening students. No more stealing lunch money or homework, or anything else. You can't tell us what to do, Lisa said, but her voice had no strength in it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what will happen if you keep doing what you've been doing. Jake held up his phone again. Every piece of evidence I have gets sent to the right people. Police, parents, school board, immigration services. All of it. Your lives become very complicated very quickly. This is blackmail, Steve said. No, blackmail is when you threaten someone to get something for yourself. This is consequences. You do bad things happen to you. Simple. Danny tried one last time to sound tough. What if we don't care? What if we call your bluff? Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had faced down alien warlords and survived battles across multiple star systems. Try me, Jake said simply. The bullies looked at each other again. They could see in Jake's eyes that he was not bluffing. He had the evidence. He had the connections. And most importantly, he had nothing left to lose. They were used to dealing with people who were afraid of them. Jake was not afraid of anything they could do. Fine, Danny said finally. We'll back off. Not good enough, Jake said. You're going to do more than back off. You're going to fix what you broke. What do you mean? Alex Chun, Ben Murphy, Sarah Kim, all the other kids you've been taking money from. You're going to pay them back. Every dollar. That's hundreds of dollars, Lisa protested. And you better start saving your allowance. And, Jake continued, you're going to tell everyone at school that the protection racket is over. No more payments, no more threats. Anyone who tries to restart it answers to me. Steve looked around desperately. What about our reputations? People will think we're weak. People will think you learned how to be human beings. That's an improvement. Jake put his phone away and looked at each of them one final time. Here's what I learned in the war. Real strength isn't about hurting people who can't fight back. Real strength is about protecting people who need help. You want to be strong? Start protecting instead of praying. The bullies walked away in silence. Their reign of terror was over. Jake watched them go, then turned to his sister. Are you okay? He asked. Katie nodded. How did you do that? How did you get all that evidence? I paid attention. I listened. I learned who they really were, instead of who they pretended to be. Will they really leave everyone alone now? They will if they're smart. And if they're not smart, they'll learn the hard way that some battles aren't worth fighting. Monday morning came with changes. Alex Chun walked through the halls without looking over his shoulder. Ben Murphy ate lunch in the main cafeteria instead of hiding in the library. Sarah Kim joined the drama club she had always wanted to try. Danny Crawford, Lisa Martinez, and Steve Coleman became ordinary students. They went to class, did their homework, and minded their own business. Some people whispered about their sudden change in behavior, but most students were just relieved. Jake Morrison found his place at Riverside High School, not as the damaged veteran trying to fit in, but as the guardian making sure everyone could learn and grow safely. His war was over, but his mission continued. He had learned that heroes were not defined by their past battles, but by how they used their strength to protect others. And sometimes, the most important battles were fought not with weapons, but with courage, intelligence, and the simple refusal to let bullies win. The hallways of Riverside High were safe now. Jake Morrison was home.